Hello, friends. Welcome to the Brand X podcast. I am super happy that you have decided to take some time out of your day to join us. We're talking about creativity, imagination, some topics we haven't really covered much in the podcast so far. I wrote a book years ago, and I've recently released sort of a reimagining of the book, if you will, commentary on it. And in the book, I talk about the need for imagination in leaders and in the role of being a leader, how it is so important to be able to imagine a future that's not yet been realized and to inspire your people, the people that are in your care and your charge, by creating these worlds or creating a world that you want to see and inspiring them to buy into your vision. And over the years, it's been 16 years since I wrote the book. In the new version of it, I talk about how I've come to the sort of point of view that imagination possibly or could be the most important leadership characteristic of the 7 that I talk about in the book. And today we've got somebody who is, I would call, an expert in imagination. Hannah Kessler is here with us today. Welcome to the show, Hannah.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me here. This is an honor and a pleasure.
Oh, the honor is mine. And you are coming from a really interesting place. You're the first person I think that we've had on the show who is coming from the nonprofit world. I've spent some time in the nonprofit world over the years, and I found that it is in a lot of ways much more challenging than the for-profit world. Hannah is the executive director at the Texas Youth Voter Project. So she's out there working to get young people into the political process by registering to vote.
Mhm.
Hannah, let's talk about this idea of creativity. Why is creativity important as a leader in your opinion?
Creativity is definitely important as a leader. I think it's closely tied to innovation. And when you
Mm,
look at anything that's been successful, somebody had to think about something that already, that didn't exist yet. Of course, you can draw inspiration from things that do already exist, but I think that's what separates something apart. And this really translates whether it's the art world, we're talking about music, paintings, anything. And then, you think about tech, you think about Apple. There's so many ways that innovation, creativity really differentiate someone or a brand from everything else that already exists. So I definitely think it's a huge factor when we're talking about leadership and something that you're building.
and you've got to be able to imagine it yourself, first of all,
For
right?
sure.
And then you've got to be able to cast that vision for others and be able to present it in a way that they go, yeah, I want to be a part of that. That's what you've been doing with the organization you're with. You've got a lot of experience in the nonprofit space and outside of that. What is it that you like about the nonprofit world in terms of what is it that stands out to you that you go, this is why I want to be here?
There's so much. I would say the biggest thing for me was working with volunteers. Volunteers are a different breed of people. They are so driven to do good in the world, and that is inspiring as somebody who's doing the work to keep doing the work. Cuz I feel like the world we live in is very negative, and when you are in these spaces of the nonprofit world, it's, thank God, a different world. A lot of inspiration from the people you work with, from the volunteers, from the work that you're doing, and being able to see impact that is positive in this world. And I think we need that more than ever. So
Yeah.
that was a huge sign to me that I was in the right place, was that I felt good about the work that I'm doing, that it had meaning, it had purpose. And that is very special when it comes to what you do for a living.
Yeah, absolutely. You got to love it. And what do you think is the big difference in leadership in the corporate world versus the nonprofit world? What would you say is the big difference there?
I think a lot of it is relationship based, and the relationships are built out of wanting to have a positive impact. But when I do talk to my corporate friends, they are always like, man, you're so lucky that you actually like care about what you're doing, that the people you work with care about you, not feeling like a number, right? I get to, in many cases, work with people I hang out with, people I enjoy spending
Man.
time with, people I consider friends for life to make a good impact on our state and in this world.
Yeah, as a leader in that space, you don't have the advantage of providing a livelihood to people and being able to use that as leverage and getting them to stay, if you want to call it that,
Yeah.
and just really spell it out.
Yeah.
In your world, the people that you are leading are there because they care about the cause, they
Yep.
care about what that cause represents,
Mhm.
and they buy into you
Yeah.
specifically, right? And you could run a team
Mhm.
in the corporate world and have zero buy-in from your team.
That's a great point.
Certainly don't recommend that.
Yeah.
And I teach the opposite of that. And
Yeah.
and I'm a big believer in the power of why and start with why and the Simon Sinek and all that.
Mhm.
And but I could see that it takes a special kind of person to be a leader in that nonprofit world.
Absolutely.
Back to this idea of creativity, why is it important? In a corporate setting, you could kind of just go with the way things have always been done and run your team the way it's always been run. So why do you think in the nonprofit world it's so important to be extra creative and have that imagination, maybe even more so than in the corporate setting where you could get by with just kind of doing things the way they've been done?
Right, right.
Why do you think it's so important in the nonprofit world to be extra creative?
Yeah, so limited resources is why it's really important to be extra creative. And also, I think that's also why the relational piece comes in because people will move based off of their relationship to you. So if people feel inspired by you, your leadership, and the work that we're all collectively doing together, then they'll move. People are moved by that and will do the work. But speaking about specifically the nonprofit world, people are moved by inspiration, by feeling like they're making an impact.
I think if managers and leaders in the corporate world approach their teams
Yeah,
the way you approach your volunteer
for
teams,
sure.
I think that focusing on buy-in, focusing on collaboration, focusing on those things that you have to kind of do on a daily basis to
Yep.
keep your teams intact,
Yep.
that they would see much bigger returns on their investment of their time and energy into that team. Um,
Absolutely.
and the training that I do is rarely focused on sort of the bottom line and the numbers. What it's
Mhm.
focused on is what it takes to become an engine that creates that, what it takes to become someone that inspires people to want to work harder for you and with
Exactly.
you.
I feel like every step of the way there is a level of creativity. I think trying to keep the bigger picture in mind. I think recently, now that I've been in the nonprofit world, I'm really trying to think about how we can collaborate these organizations that we're all doing similar work and get on the same page to then make a greater impact. So I think that's something that I try to lead with is the bigger picture and also realizing that we're not competitors. We have to be collaborators no matter what, because we all have this same goal in common and we can't reach it alone. I think being creative really to me is just being authentic to myself, which is I really like, I've been on the ground. I still like to be on the ground because it connects me to the people that are doing the work and we can have those real important conversations to better the work that we're doing because I understand exactly these small things about what people really care about right now. And I think, too, I would encourage people in the nonprofit space, but also the corporate world to do the on the ground work
Mm.
to see, because I do think oftentimes it's people talking down and that can be received in a way that's like, you don't know the actual problems we're dealing with on the ground. I try to make sure I still am very in touch with that. So to me, that is creative. I think a lot of people don't approach the work
Mhm.
from that lens.
Yeah, it takes more energy to be creative, I think, sometimes than to just kind of fall back into the older ways of doing things in more
Yeah.
traditional ways. Sometimes it does take a lot more because it's a risk,
Hmm.
and you have to be able to give yourself the room to fail. And to me, that's a huge part of creativity,
Yes.
is iterating and doing trying things from a different angle
For sure.
so many times and failing so many times, but then going, okay, each time I fail, I'm learning something. And I don't think in the typical business environment, you quite often do not have that freedom to fail.
Yes.
You're given a specific period of time to solve a specific problem. And so
Mhm.
you kind of go with the path of least resistance way too often. What do you look for in a leader?
I think for me, everything goes back to connection. So it's relational. And I have a great friend, Tiara Cooper. She always says the work is relational, not transactional. And I very much believe that. And I believe specifically in the nonprofit world that that's should be the case. I would hope in any field that, people feel that way as well and should approach their work through that lens. And I think that is how you get buy-in is by caring about people.
How do you convey the message to your people? Are you more of a stand up and give a speech type? Or are you more of a one-on-one and just have the message kind of go around? Like, what's your sort of preferred method of getting that message across?
I think, it's good to be versatile for one, but I will say I thrive in the one-on-one space. That's really where you get to know people, their fears, their vulnerability, what their dreams are. I think that's how you really connect. Is it's easier to do in a one-on-one or a smaller setting, but there are times where you have to get up and give a speech, and that kind of thing is also really important for communication and reaching a larger audience.
Yeah, yeah. Do you yourself have any sort of political aspirations or ambitions?
No, I will say in high school, I was voted most likely to be president, and I'm proud of that. But I don't know who the hell would want to be president. Really,
Yeah, you got to be crazy.
you have to be insane. And so, but I will say, I maybe someday would want to work closely
Mm.
with somebody whose vision I buy into and really believe in and think could make change for the better. So I could see in that capacity.
Like an advisory type of role or
Yeah, I
something
could
like
see
that.
that. I could
Yeah,
see that for
yeah.
myself.
Well, I wish you all the best in the I know you're going to be busy for the next year or so
Yeah,
as we look towards another political season coming up next
absolutely.
November, and I know you'll be doing some great work out there. So go and visit texasyouthvoterproject.org, and if you're not registered to vote, do it. If you have kids that are voting age, get them registered. It is part of our responsibility as citizens of the United States to participate in that. It's an honor that we have.
Absolutely.
And I think it's a tragedy that more people don't participate in that process, regardless of where you're coming from politically. So, Hannah, thank you
Yes.
so much for being here.
I appreciate you so much and the work that you're
No, no,
doing.
no. This is fun, and I love hearing about creative people. I look forward to following what you're doing with that organization and the other vast opportunities that I think will open themselves to you in the coming years. So,
Thank you very
to
much.
those of you that are watching the podcast for the first time, or maybe haven't seen very many episodes, my specialty is leadership development training. I would love to talk to you about coming and training people in your organization. My big program is called Flex Lead. It is a 6 weeks training program for managers, new managers that have been around and need to practice some of those skills. Used to be called soft skills, Hannah.
Mhm.
We don't call them that anymore. We call them power
Ooh,
skills.
I like that.
Yeah, it's what makes the difference. And it involves things like creativity and some of the stuff we've talked about today.
Love
So
that.
come and visit me at thebrandonwalker.com. Say hi, visit us, all the places, right? We're on
Yep.
LinkedIn, Instagram. I even just got on, I had to bite the bullet and get on TikTok, and somehow I'm getting a bit of a little following on there. It was
Good for
very
you. That's
surprising,
great.
very surprising to be honest. But anyway, see you next week. Have a great one, and peace and love to everyone.
Thank you so much.